President Trump said recently, if Joe Biden is elected, he will sell the country to China. And he couldn't have got a better partner to do that.
This is Christian Gomez with the New American Magazine, and today we have Trevor Loudon, anti-communist author, researcher, and filmmaker with us. Trevor, welcome again to the show.
Well, thanks very much, Christian. Always a pleasure to be on.
So for at least 3 years now, you've been predicting that the 2020 Democratic presidential candidate would be Kamala Harris, that she would be on the ticket. And here we are, and Kamala Harris, well, no surprise to you at least, she is she's on that ticket as Joe Biden's running mate. So what has been the driving force to get Kamala Harris to be on the ticket? And of course, with being the running mate, do you think she'll have more say than a typical vice presidential typical vice president has had in the past?
Well, actually, she is the candidate. You know, Joe Biden, the moment Joe Biden chose her, Joe Biden became redundant. He could fall under a bus tomorrow and nobody would notice. She is the candidate, and if they win, she will effectively be the president. It will be the third term of Barack Obama, and she will finish the job that Barack Obama started. The reason I predicted this 3 years ago is that I read their press. See, this all goes back to the Rainbow Coalition of the 80s, when Jesse Jackson ran twice, 84 and 88, got fourth in the Democratic primary, I believe, 7 million votes. His campaign was run by Maoist communists from the Communist Workers' Party, League of Revolutionary Struggle, and they had the idea of getting all the minorities together with the progressive whites. So the Rainbow Coalition was identity politics writ large. You had the yellow stripe for the Asians, you had the black stripe for the African Americans, you had the red stripe for the Native Americans, you had the lavender stripe for the gays, and this was their terminology. So one of the key people in the Rainbow Coalition was a young Marxist law student from Stanford University, active in the League of Revolutionary Struggle. Well, he married into the Sandler family from San Francisco, the Golden West Savings and Loan fortune, and he used their money to get himself a lot of cachet, a lot of influence inside the top reaches of the Democratic Party, and also the Democracy Alliance, which is a gathering of about 150 left-wing billionaires, George Soros, Norman Lear, Tom Steyer, and Steve Phillips basically tells them where to put their money. And Steve Phillips was the man who got $10 million together in 2008, did big voting registration drives in 16 southern states, and that's what got his very good buddy Barack Obama ahead of Hillary Clinton. Well, Steve Phillips is the man behind Kamala Harris.
So Steve Phillips is sort of the connection between Kamala Harris and the Communist Workers' Party, the now defunct Communist Workers' Party. Can you tell us a little bit about the Communist Workers' Party and how significant that is, that connection to Kamala Harris and even Barack Obama?
It was actually the League of Revolutionary Struggle that he was involved in. And the Communist Workers' Party was another group within that coalition, on the Rainbow Coalition. But the League of Revolutionary Struggle split in 2000.
And this was a Marxist-Leninist organization, the League of Revolution.
Marxist-Leninist pro-China, Maoist pro-China, Marxist-Leninist communist organization, and they split into two factions in 1990. 1991, one group moved in and eventually merged into the Freedom Road Socialist Organization, the people behind Black Lives Matter, and the other one moved into the Democratic Party. And Kamala is affiliated with both factions, but it was Steve Phillips moved into the Democratic Party. Most of his people did. They set up a group called Power Pack, which got Barack Obama ahead of Hillary Clinton. It was behind Andrew Gillum, the Marxist who almost won the governorship of Florida last year. He was behind Stacey Abrams, who almost won the governorship of Georgia in 2018, I mean. So what it does, it picks Marxist candidates of color, this is their terminology, and does massive voter registration drives amongst Black and Latino communities. Now, Steve Phillips wrote a book, Brown is the New White, endorsed by Obama, endorsed by Pelosi. And the argument is Democrats forget about the middle. Forget about the middle. Don't spend all your money trying to entice 1 or 2% of people in the middle to go to the Democrats. There are millions of Democrats in the southern states, Black, Latino, Asian American, who are Democrat, but they don't vote. So get among them, sign them up to vote, get them to the polls, and run Black or Latino candidates to entice them to the polls. So Kamala Harris was chosen to fulfill this role. She was chosen way back.
Now, Trevor, what you're talking about also reminds me of sort of a micro version of the Tricontinental Conference that you had in Cuba in the 60s, where you had the Asian communists, the Latin American communists led by Castro, and the African communists sort of converging together to sort of create an anti-America, anti-imperialist front of those ethnic nations or continents. And what you're describing with the Asian vote, the Latino vote, and the Black vote in the South seems like they're trying to recreate that, but domestically, internally, for the communist cause. Would you say that that's a fair assessment or accurate comparison?
I think that's completely accurate, Christian. See, Maoism is all about racial politics. You know, when the old Soviet way was you get the class struggle, you get the working class to overthrow the capitalists. But in China and Asia, you didn't have an industrial working class. So you had to use the racial minorities, the ethnic groups, and pit them against each other. So Maoism is all about racial minorities, racial agitation, etc. So this happens in the streets. This is the Black Lives Matter demonstrations we've seen lately are run by two pro-Chinese communist groups, the Freedom Road Socialist Organization and Liberation Road. But electorally, they work with the minorities, particularly in the South, to overturn the Republican Party in the South. That's why Virginia is now a blue state. This was orchestrated by pro-Chinese communists through their group New Virginia Majority, which signed up 200,000 minority voters. They're doing it in North Carolina, they're doing it in Tennessee, they're doing it in Georgia, they're doing it in Florida. This is all Maoist.
Now, Trevor, we've recently heard from the intelligence community that they're saying that there's Chinese interference in this election and that communist China wants to get President Trump and Pence out of the White House and replace with Joe Biden. So what is the connection between Kamala Harris and communist China? If she's in the VP there, in the VP office in the White House, and Biden becomes the president, what should we expect to happen with U.S.-Chinese relations and foreign policy?
Well, you know, she has been making these, she's been playing the anti-China game a little bit to make herself look tough. But look, her parents were Maoists. They were in a group that became the Black Panther Party. She was a mistress of Willie Brown, Communist China's best friend in the Bay Area and a long-time Communist Party supporter. She was the protege of Steve Phillips, the Maoist communist. You know, President Trump said recently, if Joe Biden is elected, he will sell the country to China. And he couldn't have got a better partner to do that. She was a big fan of Rose Pak, for instance, who was the Communist China's biggest operative in the San Francisco Bay Area. She's very heavily involved with the Liberation Road, Freedom Road Socialist Organization circles, who are completely pro-China. She mentored a young woman called Latifah Simon, who was very actively involved with a group called Stand standing together to organize a revolutionary movement, a pro-Chinese Maoist group. Van Jones was one of the main members of that. So she is connected very heavily with the San Francisco pro-Chinese left, has been her entire life. Her parents were connected to it as well. That's why she's a big Black Lives Matter fan, because Black Lives Matter is modeled on the Black Panthers, which was Maoist, communist, pro-Chinese.
And of course you have
all through her whole pedigree is pro-China.
And of course you have Patrisse Cullors, one of the co-founders of BLM, saying that they are Marxist trained or trained Marxists. And of course you have the other radical left communist parties. It's the Workers' World Party, a Marxist-Leninist party. On their website they proclaim themselves to be, and they say right on their website that they're also involved in the Black Lives Matter movement. Trevor, thank you so much for joining us today and for exposing Kamala Harris and the ties that link her to Maoists, the Communist Workers' Party, Steve Phillips, these various racial ethnic coalitions that use race as a veneer to promote Marxist-Leninist Maoist doctrine. Thank you so much, Trevor. We hope to have you again to continue discussing Kamala Harris as the election, as we get closer to the election day. Thank you so much, Trevor.